Please welcome Bill Bernat.
About 10 years ago, my friend Cindy visited me from San Francisco. And we were standing around waiting for lattes, and she surveyed the room and said, "You have to get out of here. These people are so cold." Right? And by these people, she wasn't talking about the patrons of Zoka Green Lake Coffee House. She was talking about the entire Pacific Northwest. She was already suspicious. A couple days earlier, on the ferry to Bainbridge, she had said, "Do you mind if I walk around the boat and smile at people and see what happens? Will that embarrass you?" And I said, no, go for it. Kind of half expecting like a safety warning from the captain. "Be advised, there's reports of a woman smiling at strangers on the upper deck. So I advise you to be polite, but distant." So I didn't even notice the freeze because my whole life I'd struggled with social anxiety. I mean, to my way of thinking, avoiding social interactions with strangers was a kindness. Like I thought I was making the world less awkward. But it was killing me. I had 2 years clean from drug addiction, and I'd never been more isolated and alone. And I had 2 years in Seattle. And I started having suicidal thoughts, but I didn't really want to die. I just couldn't live in that emotional pain. So I said to myself, hey, this is your situation. What are you going to do about it? And I decided in my mid-40s to try to learn social skills that most people pick up somewhere between grade school and college. And it was, it was a terrifying prospect. Some people, they're social superstars in this world who talk to strangers all the time and never get stressed about it. They would never cut a conversation short just because it's going well. Whereas I would think, hey, this conversation's going great. I still have time to leave before they think I'm weird. One time I was in line, this is going back a couple decades now, in line at the bank, and a coworker was next to me, and we were chit-chatting, and he talked to some people next to him in line, just some friendly banter about waiting in bank lines, and I was stunned. Like, how could he talk to people he didn't know and not be like so nervous that he shook inside and his voice quivered, or not just hate himself afterward, assuming that he'd been a real bother and that he'd made a fool of himself? See, for me, like, I wasn't aspiring to that level of awesomeness. I had a problem like my whole life. I was very used to freaking out inside a lot during social interactions. Like, gee, should I make small talk? Be deep, make a joke. Am I talking too much, too little? Am I making enough eye contact? Am I making too much eye contact? My eye contact is pretty intense. Maybe I shouldn't make any eye contact at all. But then it's weird that I'm not making any eye contact, And then they're like, 16-ounce latte for Bill. And I'd explained all this to a therapist way back in the 90s, and he said, wow, if I had to go through all that every time I left the house, I'd use drugs too. So I decided to force myself to start interacting with people, starting with a meetup for fans of the science fiction television show Firefly. And I had a strategy, which was to sort of hold a pleasant energy, smile, just a slight smile, and not talk too much. Just, jump in when there was an easy fit. And I stayed the whole time, which for me was kind of a big deal then. And I found other meetups to go to, other things to do, to get out and be around new people. I started talking to people more after 12-step meetings, especially OA, where I was less self-conscious about my body. I had a weight thing at that time, and I did just a lot of different things, kirtan, Sanskrit group singing. I accepted every invitation, even when I didn't want to go. And I even did OkCupid. And at first, all these things were just terrifying. But I gave myself complete permission to fail. Plus, Coming from a place of suicidal depression, I didn't need for it to be amazing, just better than death. Like, I could say one thing that was uncool or accidentally offensive and just torture myself looping it over and over in my head for days. Like, oh God, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I tried to show them pictures of my cats. But I told myself, Bill, you got out and interacted with people. Even if you did screw it up, which you probably didn't and you're just imagining it, but even if you did, it's a win. You already know what the alternative is. Plus, your cats are fucking adorable. My whole life I felt so much pressure in conversation to prove that I was witty or important. I learned that people weren't generally that interested in me, so much as they were very interested in themselves. So I would kind of sideline my need for attention and make other people the star of the conversation. And that made talking to people a lot easier and a lot more fun. I learned to only argue when I could do it with a smile. Visceral anger rarely attracts people. And it turns out when somebody is wrong about something, God is okay with you not pointing it out. Probably the most important thing I did to learn how to connect with people is I learned how to accept rejection gracefully. And that doesn't just mean being polite. That means resisting that temptation to hold on to anger at somebody because they snub me in a conversation or don't want to get together. And so once I learned how to have warm feelings for those people, my fear of rejection diminished significantly. And that's surface stuff, right? That's breaking the ice. The trickier part then, once you're there, is to actually make friends, which for me was a process of finding things that I enjoyed doing and showing up week after week, month after month, year after year. And it took a while, but eventually I did develop a really rich network of friends, and I try to prioritize that so that I'm a good friend to them. It's something that I learned that I just need to work at. It's a constant effort in my life, and that's okay. Studies have shown that loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking, although possibly not as much fun. But it's not about health, right? Connecting with people is basically our deepest human need. So now, when I ride the ferry and I look out on the people on the boat, I don't see a bunch of people who want to push other people away. What I see is a bunch of people who, no matter how cool they might act, all have a really deeply rooted desire to connect with other people. They're just hungry for that connection. And when I pause for a moment and just let my thoughts stop for a moment and take that in, it just warms my heart. And it makes me smile. But not at them, because it's Seattle and that would not be cool. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.